Welcome to Absolutely Abundant, a podcast for soul-aligned creatives. This is episode 10, Divinely Guided with Jenn and Katie. Today we have a special interview with Jenn and Katie, who are my intuitives and spiritual teachers. And I'm so excited to interview them today because they told me I could ask whatever I want. So I'm like, ooh, where are we going to go here? You should be a little nervous. No, I'm just kidding. So let me tell you a little bit about Jenn and Katie. Katie Morton and Jennifer Palmer are both intuitives, energy healers, and spiritual teachers. As a duo, they call themselves Divinely Guided. Jenn and Katie do intuitive readings and energy healing in both private and group sessions. They also teach intuitive development via their Soul Growth Group, which you can find on their website, Divinely Guided TV. Welcome, ladies.
Hello.
Hey. So excited to have you with us today. So I would love to, I don't know your full journeys yet. I'm super excited to find out because I met you both and you were well, on this path, as my own teachers. I don't know how you discovered that you were intuitive and what does that even mean to you, for people who don't know what are intuitives. Jenn, you want to start?
Oh, Lord, where do I start? Okay, well,
yeah, right.
This is actually a funny story. When my son was a baby, my first one, and before I knew that he was in the autism spectrum, I remember going to the grocery store and we were both standing in line and he was an infant and I'm standing there and I'm checking out. And there was this little book at the checkout line. It said, "You could be psychic." And I was like, oh my gosh. I could be psychic. And I remember I got it and I'm reading it. It's like one of those little 10-page books and you're reading it. You're like, oh, it's about this big. I took it in my purse and I pull it back out. Maybe I am. I don't know. Because, I've always been fascinated by this stuff. Mm-hmm. And, but it didn't really hit me until, I kind of tucked it away and everything. And later on down the road, I realized, I need to kind of look into some of this again because there was this lady who, I guess, how old was Jacob? I think he was maybe 6 at the time, 7. And I walked into this apothecary and this lady was like, "Oh, you're a natural intuitive." I'm like, "What?" I'm a programmer.
You were a computer programmer at the time.
Right. Yes.
Wow.
So, but we had this healing journey. My oldest son and I think we've had many lifetimes together, and he is on the autism spectrum, and he started channeling, and he was naturally gifted at energy healing, and these weird things just started happening. Like even from the time he was born, I started having spiritual experiences and, ghostly type things, and it freaked me out a little bit, but also helped me to remember that there's something else going on here. So in this journey of us together, he woke me up and cracked me open, and I found my passion in healing, and it started with physical healing with nutrition and things like that. And then it turned into more of a soul-based spiritual healing and consciousness work and things like that. And then, it just evolved into this thing and then involved to this thing.
And how about you, Katie?
Yeah. So for me, I had a funny similar experience where I used to call up psychics back when I worked at CNBC and I lived in New York City, and one of my coworkers was super duper into manifestation and all this type of stuff way before it was popular. And she got me into it because she would call these people and then they'd make predictions and then she would share them with me and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I started calling them on her recommendation and they were accurate. And one of them at some point said to me, "Oh, you're psychic too, just like me." And I remember laughing, thinking, well, she's off today. This is not a thing. Yeah. And then I had a second one say it to me, but this is one this woman was so accurate and so precise that she's one of those people where I used to take extensive notes, and I can still go back and look at her notes and find a lot of truth and accuracy. And so when she said it, it sort of, I kind of sat up and I listened. And so it was right around the time that my daughter was born when Archangel Gabriel came in with clairaudience, and he was very loud and very crystal clear. And it was quite shocking because I had never had an experience that was that just, right out loud before. So, and then from then on, it was really, it turned on, and I channeled, wrote some books, and I was really just alone with it though. I didn't tell anyone else what was going on. I was blogging a lot, like very popular mainstream blogs like AOL and Yahoo, and the blogs were getting millions of views. And I had somebody contact me, a stranger, who said, "Oh my gosh, the language you use is very similar to this book." This woman, Anita Morjani, had a near-death experience, and she wrote a book called Dying to Be Me. And something I wrote was very similar to that book. So I read the book, and it was like, boom, like, again, it was like confirmation that this was coming through me, that it wasn't really me speaking when I was writing. So yeah, around 2014, I moved to the area where Jennifer Palmer here lives and works. And I came into a Reiki share because I felt guided, and I didn't know what Reiki was. I had never heard of it. But Jen, Miss Blasty Hands here, had really very strong, powerful energy. And so that's when my energy healing journey began. And so, and Jen gave me a Reiki attunement, and that opened up my intuition even further with more clairaudience and what's the vision one?
Clairvoyance?
Thank you. I'm like blanking on the word. We teach intuition. Did we mention that? I'm very skilled. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, and then since then, I think like I had a little bit of like a training up period on energy, and also working the angles of intuition that involved, I think, like spiritual safety. Like that's a big part of what we teach and do, because there's a lot of spiritual battles kind of going on, and I won't go deep into that, but it's just the idea of like, you really need to be careful who you're talking to. And when we teach intuition, I think what happens a lot is when people are, new to their gifts and they're so excited about it, and people can get over eager and under cautious about who and what they're connecting to. And so,
Are you talking about me?
no, I'm just kidding. I'm actually not. I don't know why you would think that. I think you're pretty good, Julie. No, definitely not talking about you. Some of our students who are more like, they're really with us to learn intuitions very, very specifically. So anyway, yeah. So I mean, I took some time to really, I think, develop those skills before I went after it as a professional intuitive, which I started doing, I think, in 2017? Pretty sure.
Yeah, I think it was about that. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's everything.
And when you say you're psychic, what do you like? Can you explain that to people? Like, how does it work? Like, people who have no idea, like, are they predicting my future? Like, is this going to happen to me? Like, what exactly, if you can put it into words, like with your mind? I know it's hard to put into words, but how would you define psychic
We're going to teach you a
ability?
little mini class right now with some definitions. Because
Yes, please.
this isn't hard at all.
Yes.
But, there's different ways that you can get energy. And so the way, and feel free to interrupt and chime in, but psychically, the way we look at that is sort of, like you're reading the energies. So for example, Julie, I could sort of feel into your, sounds creepy, feel into your field and get what I'm getting. But then what we more specialize in ourselves when we're giving readings, more about connecting with people's spirit guides. And so that we would call intuition.
Or channeling or mediumship.
Or mediumship, which I think of as more as connecting with their loved ones. So people who they may have shared this life with, but somebody passed on.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah. And I remember when I first came, I think it was a Reiki share. That was how I first met both of you. And Jen was leading it. And I walked in the room and you were like, I know you. And then my friend who was there, you were like, I know you too. And I was like, well, we think we're sisters from another lifetime. And you're like, I know both of you. Like it was so wild. And at that time I was just opening up to all this as well. And I just was so moved by it. And I've learned so much from both of you. You know, you're just both such a wealth of knowledge. And something else that came up when you were talking, Katie, was how important it is to go to someone you trust. And, you know, this, like when you were saying you go into their energy, this is deeply personal, intimate work that we do. And, you know, people just calling up a psychic, that's a little dangerous. You know, you need to be really careful and discerning. And I've learned that the feelings of people being off or projecting their lives onto you, and you're like, what? Like, that doesn't make sense for me at all, you know? But I think that that's a really important point for people to go to people that they trust and they feel that safety with. And I love that you teach the energetic protection. Can you talk a little bit more about that to somebody who's brand new to this? Maybe they're getting oracle cards or something that they're starting to play with. What kinds of things do they do to protect their energy, or, you know, even who's involved in this kind of process?
Well, first I want to say that, you know, no matter what you're doing, I don't care if you're praying, meditating, working with cards, using divining tools, whatever it is that you're into, always get into sacred space. You want to clear and then protect. And, you know, you want to make sure that whatever it is, even if you think you're just connecting to a pendulum or something, there's an energy around the pendulum. So everything needs to be clear. I've known people who've gotten spiritually in difficult situations because they didn't do that, even with a pendulum. Mm-hmm. So same thing, even with prayer. You know, anytime you're getting connected, it's important to really be careful about how you're doing it and to approach it with, you know, that God presence, you know, that creator, God presence, universe, whatever it is you call that, but that higher, really loving, strong, beautiful presence. And then do it, you know, and highly recommend doing it. And it's not something to be afraid of, but you know, just like, you know, you lock your door at night, you don't want to leave it wide open. Same thing, you know, just because you leave it unlocked doesn't mean someone's definitely going to walk through, but you never know if that's going to happen necessarily. So yeah.
So on our website, actually, and I'll give this to you, Julie, for the show notes, we have a very extensive article about ways people can create sacred space.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Helpful for us to link to that rather than, because it's hard for us to encapsulate. It's different for everyone, and they have to do it in a way that feels good for them. And so the article we put together contains many options that people can figure out what works for them. One thing also to just note about that, when people are learning how to create sacred space for themselves, because I think it's a bit of a personal journey. We give our hard recommendations in the article that we feel people should abide by, but people have to do what works for them. That said, we have found that creating and maintaining sacred space has been somewhat of a journey, and that over time your methods might need strengthening. And so what might work 1 week has to get tweaked and upgraded. And so people need to be fluid with that process and continue strengthening sacred space as they grow spiritually.
And discerning. Make sure you're always discerning. You know, even if you feel that, no, I'm definitely getting this from my guide, you know, you never believe anything 100% because you might be messing up the message, or you might be getting interfered with because maybe you didn't set sacred space correctly or something, you know. So while we highly recommend getting into and talking with your guides and your loved ones and things like that, because it's amazingly beautiful and extremely helpful, you know, there's still, just as if you're talking to a good friend, Julie, if I ask you for advice about something, you know, I might be 95% on board with it, but I will reserve 5% of, well, who knows, maybe, you know, because who knows. And so discernment is really important in all of it.
And what part does the free will come in? So if our spirit guides are saying, this is what we want you to do, and they're kind of nudging us in that direction, and we're like, no, you know, like how much control do we actually have?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. That's a really funny question. Look, we can do whatever the heck we want. Is it going to maybe like delay our soul's path and soul's mission? If it's really, so let's take the discernment and sacred space out of it. Let's say you are getting correct guidance. It is from your guides. And so your hesitation is really going against what is probably for your best and highest good, because the guides, that's what they're trying to do for you, right? And you have resistance to it. A lot of times that means, you know, one or two things. One, maybe you might need some energy healing or past life clearing or tree of life healing, some sort of deeper energetic spiritual healing to release you from that resistance. And sometimes it's it's just a test of your courage. And you just have to put aside the ego and follow what the soul came here to do, basically.
Well, I mean, so we did this early on, when we started teaming up and we were getting together as friends and not as, a professional connection, right?
Yeah.
And the guys were like, you need to start a podcast. And we're like, what?
A podcast? You've never done any videos or anything. And
well, I had done one video because my guys kept telling me I needed to do a video and that I needed to put my bio up on my website as a video, as opposed to just like a picture with some words. And I'm like, okay. So I was like, okay, I can do this. I can do it. So I had 10 takes or something. And every time I would, I had this big whiteboard of everything I wanted to say. And I put the video camera rolling and I'm standing there and I'm like, hi, I'm Jennifer Palmer. By the time the 30 seconds was done, my shoulders finally dropped. And every time, no matter what, I was like, hi. Hi. And it was so awful. But I was like, okay, I'm just going to toss it up there because they're saying I have to do it and I'm just going to do it. And then they were like, okay, next step. You need to do this podcast thing. And we're like, yeah, maybe later.
We dragged our feet for actually, I think, a couple of years before we finally did it, which now we look back on it and we're like, well, that was dumb. We really should have gotten because by the time we had to do it, I mean, the messages were thunderous. There was no getting out of it. And then our first video was so bad, but we had to do the same thing. We put it up feeling oh God, we hope no one sees it. Can we take it down yet? Eventually our guides let us take it down, but it's we had to go.
It was more like a please take it down now.
Yeah.
Yes. I had that experience too. I was guided to start making videos and I did it outside and it got dark and by the end it was pitch black and nobody could see me and I was still talking. And I watched it back. I was like, how long was it black? It was 20 minutes. No one could see anything. And it was the same thing. I was just guided to do it. And I was like, I said a million times, a million times. I still say but it was just something that I felt that push as well. And I'm like, all right, sometimes we go kicking and screaming, but there's a reason why we're moved in that direction. So I love that you all went through that too. And I wanted to know, what are your thoughts around wealth and spirituality? People think it's not spiritual to be wealthy. What do you think about that?
I think that's a load of hooey.
What I think is we all have jobs to do and we all deserve some sort of compensation. Does that mean I necessarily want to do this because I think we should get rich from it? No, we're doing it because we're called to help people. First and foremost, we're called to help people. And whatever comes after that, okay. But yeah, abundance is nice. Being able to pay your rent or your mortgage is nice. I've got a lot of bills owning a big wellness center. It's nice to be able to pay them. I don't think people realize how, it's so funny because my wellness center is big and people come in thinking I'm loaded. And I'm like, do you have any idea how much Nourishing Journey owes me?
Right.
You have no
how much
idea.
it takes to run a physical place like that.
I have no idea. And it's just funny the preconceptions that people have about things. And, but just like anything, we're healers. Even if you're doing intuitive information, you're healing somebody through that intuitive information. Does a doctor deserve less? Does a teacher deserve less? Does a policeman deserve less? Do nurses deserve less? We all have our missions here. And they're all really spiritual in nature. We just don't realize they are. Why should somebody who coaches or does healing where they're directly connected and channeling or something like that, why would you not deserve the same abundance and ease of living or whatever it is you're looking for as the politician or the police officer or whoever else, right? I don't know. I guess
or billionaire. I don't know.
Yes, no, but seriously, we all have our call. We all have what we're here to do, and it's more about egoic judgment than it is about God's plan when you're looking at it that way. And I just feel like if it's God's plan for us to have abundance, okay. If somebody's struggling, then there's a reason for that, and I don't think that that's necessarily ideal unless there's some karma or lesson being learned from that, and then heal it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, like yourself, Julie, a lot of people are here to teach manifestation. And it's like the idea that money is neither good nor bad and shouldn't be assigned a moral judgment attached to like people who have it or don't have it, aren't better or worse or anything like that. Of course, there are people in this world who use money for good and some people who don't. Let's just put it that way. And so money is really, it's an energy and it's an exchange. And it's like anything in life, it's neutral until it's in the hands of the person and it's assigned meaning. And it can be used for anything really. So I think money itself as a concept is, it has a neutrality about it. And then you get to make it really, you can make it really, really good, or you can make it really, really bad. You can do whatever you want, like with the meaning you assign to it. It's my feeling about it.
Do you think some people are destined to be very wealthy, or is that something that they go towards?
Yeah, I think that, referring back to what Jen said with God's plan, I think we all probably, as souls, I think before we came here, we probably agreed to, like, on the best and highest path, this is probably a level of wealth we were meant to attain. I think there is probably some lessons also that we all came here to learn about money. There's probably something in the struggle about being on earth,
Well, it's about survival, right?
And healing those fears and those needs so that we can all be comfortable, I think, ultimately.
And I think one of the things that I went through was reassigning money as a survival tool to a love tool, and that was a bit of a journey for me as well. But being able to receive money as a gift of love, as opposed to, oh, great, now I can pay my rent. Right. Shifting that vibration with the idea of what is money, and it's just a tool. It's a gift. It's a receipt that you receive for what you give.
Yeah, I was telling my kids, they were saying, oh, taxes, you have to pay taxes. And I said, I get to pay taxes because mommy contributes in a big way. So I get to contribute a lot of tax money, and that's the way it goes. And it's just, like you said, it's an exchange, it's a tool. And it to me, it's evidence of contribution. It's something that I'm proud to pay taxes because I'm contributing to the schools and the libraries and the roads. And that's part of our community too, so like Katie said, it's just the meaning we give to it. So I love that. This was so fun. I have loved talking with you, and I would love to know more about your soul growth group. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we teach a group. It meets twice per month, once online, once in person.
Well, in person and
online. So
we have some people that don't live nearby.
Always want to be online. That is true. So yeah. And we teach, so it's a mix of soul growth, meaning we'll teach sometimes personal growth concepts. Sometimes we'll do healings or meditations, followed by intuitive learning. So intuitive development. We'll teach different concepts and let people practice. And it's really fun.
It is. It is a lot of fun.
Yeah. We did a fun one this past week where we did remote viewing, but into the body. So we could sort of scan for different issues. And what came up was very interesting because it varied from it could be a physical pain, like I sense pain in your Achilles, to something like to emotional or spiritual issues. So we got a big range of answers for people. So it was fun.
That's fascinating. I also wanted to bring up that, healing doesn't have to be painful. When I go to see Katie and have healing sessions, we laugh hysterically. We laugh right? Like we're
always
so
have to try to be quiet.
Yeah, we're like, okay, let's keep it down. There's a session right next door to us. But laughter is healing too. And when you find people that you resonate with and you're comfortable with and you trust, it's really fun. It's a fun journey. It's I feel like I'm like a healing junkie. I love it. There's more and more readings, more energy healing, and other energy healers, readers, coaches. I highly recommend hiring spiritual teachers because if you are a teacher, you need a teacher. We all need a leader. We all need to be led. And when you do intimate work with people, it's easy to have their things glom onto you. I know that's happened to me and I'm crying. I'm like, why am I crying? And then I'm like, oh, this isn't even mine. So I think the work that you all do is so important, especially for coaches and anybody doing any kind of spiritual work, because we can't see when we're in it. We can't notice that we're off. except for being like, I just feel weird, or I've been really emotional. But I think the consistent, just like going to the gym, it's the same kind of thing. It's just a different kind of wellness. So I love what you do, and I'm excited to, get to see you regularly. And I will put all of their information in the show notes, all their links, and the website and the Soul Growth group. Ladies, thank you so much for being here. This was so much fun.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you.
Julie. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
See you next week.